Hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode of Under the Scope. I'm your host, Mandus Buckle, alongside my co-host.
Stan Delongeau.
Stan, he came up with the idea of a not so office setting for this show. He said, let's sit in the lounge and let's get our guys up on the big screen and dig deep into who they actually are.
Yes.
Know a little bit more about them.
Exactly.
And we 100% agree that there would be no better first guest
than Shaun Clarida.
Shaun Clarida, the giant killer. Shaun, welcome.
What's up, guys? I appreciate you guys having me on. I didn't know I was the first guest, so I really appreciate that.
Exactly, man.
Well, we were talking about the things that happened at the 2020 Olympia, and it was a very unique year and a very special year in a lot of different ways. The fact that Olympia team, Jake Wood, Dan Solomon, Tamer El Gundy, Tarek El Gundy, Tim Gardner, Angelica Nebbia, that they were able to move this event across the country in a matter of weeks and make it the most entertaining Olympia that we've ever seen is absolutely unbelievable. And then within that,
there was a few storylines.
There were some storylines that would go down in history. And I think the most memorable moment of the weekend was when you were announced the winner. There wasn't a dry eye in a stadium, and I'm sure at home, that was true raw emotion. Walk us through a little bit of what that might have even felt like and meant to you.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, my hat goes off to the whole entire Olympia team, Jake, Dan, Angelica, everyone. I mean, like I said, picking this up 4 weeks before the Olympia and moving it across the country. And you couldn't tell that it was pretty much rushed because everything was on point. The setup, the stage, it was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm just lucky. We're all lucky to be able to obviously be there with the Olympia still going on, with everything going on. We got into Orlando, or I think it's Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and my coach and I went right to work. And he just, my coach, Matt Jansen, he has been my coach for the past, I think this is our 5th Olympia together. Wow. And every year he's learned my body more and more and knows what works best for my body. And like I said, we got to Orlando, and this is probably the best I've ever looked going to Olympia. And we just kind of got to work. We trained. He looked at me every day. We posed. We made changes to the diet and just kind of slowly but surely peaked me going into the show itself. We woke up Friday morning and we were ready to rock and roll, man. Like everything was just on the money. He was happy. My girlfriend was happy. Me, I'm a train wreck. I'm never happy. So as long as they're happy, I'm good. And we knew it was going to be a battle with Kamal being the champion. And again, I trained for them, but first, man. And this year I had a plan, I had a strategy of how I wanted to prepare myself going into the show. I didn't post any pictures. I didn't talk much. I stayed covered up. And that was kind of part of my plan. I mean, I didn't want any distractions going into Olympia. I kind of wanted to keep my head clear and just go in and just do what I do. Like, so we got on stage Friday. For me, it's once I get into that first call out, I'm ready to work. I don't care who's there. I knew that Kamal was the champion and he was improved from a year ago, but I was also improved from a year ago. And we got into that first call out. Steve moved me right next to Kamal. And right there, I knew it was a battle, and shot for shot, they worked us, over and over and over. And for me, man, once I get going and I'm in that moment, it's just do or die for me. And I knew that I have to give everything I had at that very moment if I wanted to come out on top. There were times where I saw or heard Kamal kind of, gassing a little bit. And I knew that I had to kind of step it up a little bit more and kind of show that I wanted a little bit more. And that's kind of, I believe, what kind of carried me over in the night show. But once we got back to the hotel or the room after prejudging, we knew it was going to be tight. From what I understand, it was a 1-point decision going into the finals. And for us, we needed to bring it 100% again. And then same thing, night show, just last two guys standing, Kamal and myself. You know, they made us pose again. And at that very moment, that was it. It's like, I have to give everything I got right now for this very moment. And I gave everything I had. I literally gave everything I had. But a part of me felt like, you know, with Kamal being a champion, that I was going to be second, to be honest with you. I didn't think I was going to win. I knew I could have won, but I just felt like with him being a champion, I just felt like maybe it just wasn't good enough. So in that very moment, man, I'm just sitting there just praying to myself, just thinking, hoping, and waiting for those magic words from Bob. Would I hear "and new" or "and still"? Mm-hmm. And, you know, and obviously hearing the new part, man, I just lost it. Like, it was so emotional. Just having my team there and thinking back to 16 years, this whole entire process, how a lot of people, you know, count me out, a lot of naysayers. Everyone told me I wasn't good enough, I was too small, I should give up. You know, all that stuff kind of played over in my head as I'm in that moment. And I told myself, like, this is the reason why I did everything I did from then till now. This is the reason why everything I feel like I went through has paid off, to be at the top. And it's a moment you can't put into words. It's just a surreal moment. Honestly, it still hasn't hit me yet. I'm still kind of taking it all in. And I go to the gym, I'm back at the gym training, and everyone's coming up to me saying congratulations. And I'm just like, kind of like, oh, what happened? You know, it hasn't really sunk in yet. But I'm very grateful for the opportunity to now be the next 212 champion. And I'm looking forward to obviously continuing to work hard and to continue to obviously progress the division and really be a good representative and ambassador for the 212 division as well as the entire league.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, the way you looked, you were still not satisfied when you woke up. Like, you were such on the money. You would think, you know, anybody would wake up and look like this and be like, yeah, I got this. Like,
No, you know, when I was satisfied is when the show was over. When I got back to the room, looked at videos and pictures, and I'm like, wow, like I actually look good here, you know? And,
yeah.
You know, and I think that's kind of like the reason why I continue to work so hard, because I'm never satisfied. And I'm always feeling like I could be better.
Did you guys make from prejudging of the night show?
Honestly, we just continued to do what we did in the morning, was eat very little, and just rest. Matt wanted me honestly sleeping and kind of resting my body, clearing my head. And that works best for I think that really worked best for me. We didn't do anything crazy. We didn't do any, you know, increasing food or anything. It was more so just very little food and a lot of rest.
Yeah, I mean, you really brought like such a complete like package. Like, I don't think you can push the fullness any more than you had, and you were still like really conditioned. Like that, yeah, it was just a perfect combo. You can't really, I mean, as a competitor, I can't really dream of anything better than the way you looked.
You know, speaking of fullness, I mean, people don't realize I'm like I have a weird body where I don't need a lot of food to fill out. Like, we literally had one meal prior to prejudging, and that was it. And it was very small. It was like 3-4 ounces of protein and maybe 150 grams of rice. And I had a small muffin backstage, and that was all I needed, because we wanted to make sure the waist and the abs, the core is tight, so we didn't put too much food in. But I'm one of those guys that I don't need a lot of food. I don't need water at all. My body just naturally is always full, which Matt obviously loves, because, you know, he's like, well, I don't have to feed you a ton of food and keep everything nice and tight. But yeah, it's just how my body responds.
But you also don't have to like deplete to make weight, so you can more like cruise into the weigh-in and really come like and stay there.
That's a big benefit that I have, whereas all my competitors have, like you said, have to cut weight, cut food, cut water to make that weight, and they have less than 24 hours to fill back out. Whereas I don't have that stress. That's a big thing. Stress is a huge part of this process. And because I don't have the stress of having to make the weight, cut my food, cut my water, I'm just strolling into the weigh-ins, you know, weighing in and kind of going back to the room and continuing with the process. So I think that's a huge benefit that I have. So we've seen, obviously, a lot of guys show up, unfortunately, not on the money because they may not have had enough time to fill back out properly.
Yeah.
You know, Shaun, you needed every bit of how amazing you looked, because Kamal really, he was really improved. He brought it. And so how fulfilling is it to know that your absolute best beat the absolute best of the reigning and defending champion. It wasn't like you won when somebody else was off or there wasn't a strong lineup. I mean, he was spot on and vastly improved from last year. And from our perspective, obviously it was closer in the judge's eyes, but from our perspective, when you came out, there was an absolute wow factor there. We said, holy shit. Look how he looks.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was very happy at the fact that we got the win over, like you said, the defending champion, who was very much improved. Like you said, it could have went either way. And I give credit to my coaches, both Matt Jansen and John Meadows, because, you know, without those two in my corner, I don't know how I would have looked. Obviously, John handles all my training. He's been handling my training for the past 6 years. So we worked diligently in the offseason to really bring up my weak areas and to keep that muscle fullness on. And obviously having Matt there with the food and the supplementation to really cater to the training and cater to all that stuff. You know, aside from that, you know, one thing I've done a lot of this year as well is a lot of grafting, a lot of deep tissue work, where a lot of guys I believe don't really do much of that. And I believe that it's very helpful in being able to show off a lot more detail, having the muscle a lot more relaxed, being able to pose better. And a bigger thing is be able to recover. Because if your body's not recovering, you're not able to train at 100% every single time. So the fact that I have, you know, obviously a good program, good nutrition program, and my body was stress-free all year, it just enabled me to continuously train heavy all the way through the show and continuously make improvements every single week.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about that all the time here on what a major difference it is when you're really on top of your self-care consistently and the deep tissue and the grafting. And at times for some of you guys, when you start to grow maybe a little faster than the body can keep up to, even some therapy, you know, you sometimes have to have someone get you realigned. So you're touching on something that we think is a missing piece for a lot of athletes and proves it's a necessity.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. Me moving here to Chicago, one of the first things I asked Mendes, it was like, do you have a therapist? Like who's the massage guy here? You know, and I think that's a huge part, like you just said, bringing detail, keeping the muscle open, like so you can get a good pump, you get good contraction, you grow properly, you stay injury free, and you can pose better, you can showcase your physique better. Everything that I think is such a key element.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw the interview that Chad Nichols did with a few other channels, but he said the first thing he did with Rami was give him therapy on his legs. Yeah. So it just showed you, man, like I said, the diet and training is absolutely 100% key, but taking care of your body is going to obviously, you know, be able to really show off that detail and keep things moving efficiently.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dig into it a little bit, Shaun. Now we got the preliminaries out of the way.
Here we go.
You are absolutely not the traditional guy when people think of, you know, an Olympia champion. They say, hey, so are you a nutritionist yourself? Are you a personal trainer? You know, do you own a gym? Those are some of the kind of common traits or factors that we hear in a lot of guys. You're completely different, you know, you're a different breed, you're a different dude. Walk us through your path and how you went from Shaun Clarida to Shaun Clarida.
Man,
we talked about the 16 years of training, like what even got you into the sport?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I come from a wrestling background. I wrestled in high school, and I loved it so much that I wanted to continue in college, but I wanted to stay local. So I went to a Division I wrestling program, Rider University. At the time, I was only 110 pounds, and the lightest class in college is 125. So the coaches said, if you ever want a chance to start, you got to get bigger, get stronger. So I'm like, all right. So when my teammates were outside cutting weight, running and cutting weight, I was the guy that was forced to go to the cafeteria and to the gym to train. And while I was in my gym, it was a guy named Tom Garuba, old school 70s bodybuilder, you know, Mr. Trenton, all these old school shows he's done. He looked at me. I used to train in a tank top back then. And so you have a great build. You ever think about doing bodybuilding? I was like, no, I have no idea what it is, what it entails, none of that stuff. So I looked at all his accolades, his videos, all the stuff he showed me, the magazines, and I said, it looks pretty cool. Let's, I'll try it out. Why not? And at the time, I was still wrestling. So 3 months after, meeting him and training, I did my first show, which was a 2005 Npc National Mid-Atlantic, where I placed third in the novice lightweight class. I was 118 pounds at the time. And I was instantly bit by the bug right then and there. I loved it so much, that rush of being on stage, the adrenaline, the competitive nature. I went back to my wrestling coaches and said, hey, I'm sorry. I'm going to quit the team. I'm going to pursue this bodybuilding thing, not knowing where it's going to take me. I just love the whole training aspect, see my body change, the whole process. And, obviously I started competing more and more locally. I entered into the 2011 Npc Nationals as a bantamweight. I was 134 pounds, and I got absolutely demolished. Last call out, last place. And I was so motivated by that loss that I went home and came out the next year and won the class and turned pro as a bantamweight. I was 143 pounds at that time. So I put on almost 10 pounds over that course of the year to earn my pro card. And then obviously now I'm a pro and kind of have to I'm kind of starting over again, and everyone kind of just said, hey, I think you're too small. I don't know if you're going to do well. This is when the naysayers started coming around, literally at the show itself saying, congratulations, your career is over. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're a bantamweight. There's never been a bantamweight who's done anything at the next level. You're too small. You're too short. You're not going to win shows. You're wasting your time, et cetera, et cetera. But I said, if I made it this far where I'm turning pro, who's to say that if I don't continue on training hard and, putting in the work in, that I can't be a good pro? So I obviously took the next year off and I put on some weight and made my debut at the 2014 New York Pro. I was 13th there. And then they kind of just trickled from there. I did 2 shows a year. And then, I went from last call out to being in the second call out to, being in the first call out to winning shows. And I've won 5 pro shows so far, including the Olympia this year. And I'm the heaviest I've ever been on stage was this past weekend at the Olympia. I was 177 pounds on stage.
What's your height?
5'2".
Yeah.
AKA the Giant Killer.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking I don't think there's ever. I mean, I think Lee Labrada was maybe the closest guy who was 170-ish pounds. I think he took second at the Olympia, but I don't think there's ever been a bantamweight or a guy 170 pounds win an Olympian title, whether it's 212 or open.
Well, I think Texas better than bantamweights, but that's another.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like. You said you were a wrestler when you were growing up. Were you a football, baseball, basketball guy? Were you it's summertime, school's out, you're the first guy out to the park to go run around? Were you kind of sitting around in the house? Give us a little bit about your background. Yeah,
so I've always been active, man. I've done everything. I've played summer league basketball. I've played little league baseball. I wrestled for a number of years. I love going outside to the park, riding my bike. I was an outdoor kid, man. Even though I had the video games and stuff at the house, I'd much rather be outside, running around, getting into trouble. So that was my thing, and my parents always kept me busy and kept me active. Again, with the little league, the baseball, the basketball, they just always wanted me to be involved with something. I was a Boy Scout for 11 years. People don't know that as well. I was always just busy. I never wanted to be home. And I think that's kind of obviously translated into where I'm now. I'm continuously being busy, being active, and just kind of getting out there. So sports is something that's always been, part of me.
Yeah.
So do we expect to see that now as the representative of the 212 division? Are you going to be highly active in representing your title in the league? Because you really are the first of the AKA Giant Killers for all of these younger, smaller in stature kids and athletes out there who they do most of the time. We've been conditioned to be taught when you're that size, once you get a pro card, if they can ever get to that level, it's all over. We've never
Yeah.
really seen somebody like you be able to carry the torch and be the beacon of hope for that group. We've seen it with the taller guys. Traditionally, if you were 6 foot and over, there wasn't a home for you. And we've seen some of the taller open bodybuilders and now classic physique, we see some of them can fit in. But there's never been a home for the smaller in stature guy. Is this something that you feel that you need to take on yourself to show some hope for them? Or are you saying, hey, I'm an athlete, I need to focus on me anyways? They kind of need to find their own way.
No, not at all. I'm certainly doing this for, myself, my team. I'm also doing this for New Jersey because we've never had an Olympia title here. So I'm the first in New Jersey to ever win a title. And I'm absolutely doing it for all the shorter guys, the little guys out there, because I know how they feel. I was in their shoes at one point in time when they were being told, you're too small, you're not good enough. I can't tell you guys how many messages I've gotten since the Olympia, and even way before the Olympia, from shorter guys who says, hey, thank you. Because of you, we have a chance. It's like, it's like emotional, it's like, I can't really explain it, man. It's like, it's an amazing feeling to be someone that they can look up to and follow in my footsteps. Because I was that guy at one point in time. I was an amateur kid looking at all the YouTube videos, seeing David Henry, Flex Lewis, all those guys getting ready for a contest and getting motivated and getting like anxious to see them compete. Flip that 10, 12 years later, I'm that guy you guys look up to now. You guys are watching my YouTube videos, watching me at shows, getting motivated, getting inspired, and asking for my autograph and taking a picture. Dude, I can't even explain the feeling. Being Miss Olympia is great, but I think being that role model and being that inspiration, it means so much more, at least for me. And as you said, as you asked earlier, I'm like, what's the plan now? It's to absolutely be the ambassador for this sport. Flex Lewis did an amazing job. He and I obviously talked after Olympia, and I see what he's done as far as carrying the division and really putting it on a map. And I plan to do the same thing. We're actually planning on, he has some ideas coming up in January. Between my coach and I to really build upon this win, obviously, but really take this to the next level and really be the ambassador for the division. Seminars, appearances, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, well, that's one of the first things you mentioned in your speech too. Is like, you wanted to inspire people to never give up, because you're being told all the time, you're not good enough, you're too small, you're not going to make it. I mean, I've myself been through some stuff like that when I left Switzerland. People, oh, you're never going to do anything, you're too small, men's physique is, you don't have the shape. And then, I changed it. But so that definitely inspired me. And, I think that was a big, very, you could feel like the raw emotion when you just give that speech. You came from that, you can really feel that was something that you had to go through, and that really inspires a lot of people. I believe that because everybody goes against like people. It's hard, even in your close circle. You're gonna have people that doubt you and like they're trying to bring you down. And when they see you go after something and they don't have the balls themselves to go for it, they try to like knock you down out of it. Like, oh no, don't even try. Like, don't waste your time. But you want it. You know what you're capable of, and you just put your work. You're a hard worker, and so you just put you go to work, and year after year you keep improving, and that's what you've been doing. I mean, you turned pro in 2014.
2012.
I mean, it took you 8 years to go to the top.
Yeah.
That's a lot, but that's at the same time, it's not very long. Like, Rami, I think Ronnie Coleman took him 8 years. Rami took him 8 years too. Like, it's pretty much like.
I think we got the magical number there. Hey, 8 years. Played a lot of.
We were talking about that. I mean, some guys turn pro and never even made it to Olympia,
Yeah.
Let alone win the Olympia. And but speaking of what you were saying, Stanley, about the whole, people kind of counting you out. When I started this in college, I had a really close group of friends. We all hung out, we went to parties together. And once I started taking bodybuilding a lot more serious, I stopped going out as much.
Yeah.
And I stopped hanging out as much as I did. And at that point in time, I guess they got tired of me always saying no, that they cut me off. And and to this day, they're all still friends, but none of them still talk to me to this day. And it's kind of A part of me was upset by it, and it kind of hurt me a little bit years ago. But now that I fast forward and look at today, it's like, you know what? I did all that for a reason, you know. And if you didn't support me then, don't try to support me now. You know, it's one of those things where I keep my circle very small, and I know there's some people trying to kind of get back into that little circle because of the win and all that stuff. But like I said, I forgive, but I don't forget.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of those things I always keep in the back of my mind.
Yeah. I know. So the motto for you this year is that you didn't post much, you know, like you stay covered up, you went to work, you improved dramatically. I'm curious, like, you know, what's like your income source? Like, what you have obviously some sponsors, but like sponsors usually they want you to post, you know, that's how they get visibility, that's why they invest.
Yeah.
So how did you work this all out? Like, do you have very supportive sponsors? Like,
it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
yeah.
No, but you know, obviously my main sponsors are NutriBio and Gas. You know, Michael from Gas, he's okay, man. As long as I'm promoting the brand and doing my thing, he's okay with whatever I wear. NutriBio, we actually put out a series this year, Road to Olympia, called Eyes on the Prize, where it was a 5-part series. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I posted on my Instagram. It's on YouTube. Generation Iron just picked it up as well. When the first meeting was held in regards to that, I told them off the bat, like, listen, this is, you know, if you guys want somebody to show up their body every single week and wearing tank tops, that's not me. That's not who I am. They really understood the reasoning behind why I wanted to do what I did, and they were on board with that. And they're still on board with supporting me 100% no matter what. Toward the end of the prep, obviously, I gave them a little bit more, I guess you can say, skin for the video. But they were very much on board and very supportive of what I wanted to do as far as staying covered up throughout this prep.
All right, Shaun, what was the goofiest day you had during this whole prep? Because I know there had to be a day that was just off the walls, out of this world. Like, I cannot believe this is happening. Let me make it through this day.
Good or bad?
Yeah, give us both. Start with the bad.
I talked about this a couple of times. So obviously coming off of last year, 3rd place, I'm getting back to the gym, getting motivated for this year. And I got some of the worst news ever. So my mom, she had some health issues. And I don't want to get too deep into it because she wants to keep personal with that. But her life was definitely in jeopardy. And luckily we had the surgery that was needed and she had the treatments done after. But initially when I found out about her health, I was ready to quit everything. I didn't care about life. I didn't care about anything. I was just there for her. You know, I wanted to quit bodybuilding and the whole 9 yards because my focus was on her getting better and making sure she made it through. So that couple of months was definitely tough for me. You know, emotionally, physically, everything. I just didn't have the physical means to really do anything, especially train. And I wasn't focused on bodybuilding at that point in time. But she made it through, and luckily she made it through, and she was very supportive of my journey to Olympia, and she wanted to be there this year. But obviously with COVID and her health issues, she was unable to be there. But, you know, luckily she made it through, like I said, and we kind of got back into the groove of things, and obviously went full force with the prep, and it was good. It came out the way it came out. So that was bad. As far as goofy good, man, I don't even know. Shit. Damn, I don't even know, man. I mean, the prep was very smooth, you know. Damn. I think the one thing I think I remember is it was a Sunday morning. I had checked in with Matt and sent the pictures, and he told me literally, this is like, I think we're like 8 weeks out. He told me, go have a full day of eating, eat whatever you want all day long. And I'm like, fuck, you don't know what you're doing with that. Like, don't give me that green light. And I literally just went ape shit all day. I don't know how many calories I consumed. But I definitely, it was one of those things that I'll never forget, man. Telling me to go eat a full, I literally had burgers, fries, fucking cake. I mean, everything I wanted, pancakes, anything I wanted, I had it all day long. And I literally enjoyed every minute of it. And But obviously after that, he kind of pulled the trigger and kind of right back to work. So
Yeah.
But it wasn't everything. Aside from that, man, everything else is pretty smooth this prep.
Well, you made a post. You said you thanked your girlfriend or fiance. I'm not sure. Wife.
Yeah, my girlfriend. Yeah.
You said you had like she supported you through like hard like good days and bad days, but there were more bad days than good days this year.
Yeah. I mean, I when I get ready for a show, it's like a light switch for me. I literally turn off the world, and unfortunately, she's included with that because we don't talk at all during prep. She trains with me every morning doing cardio at 4:30, and she's back to the gym at night to train. But even during those sessions, we don't talk. And when we're home, I have my end of the corner of the couch. She's got her end, and I don't say much of anything because I just don't have the energy or the strength to really talk much. You know, we don't go out during prep. You know, she goes to work, I stay home, and that's pretty much it. You know, it definitely tested our relationship because there were times where I kind of just lost my shit, I guess you could say, and catch an attitude very quickly. It's like like the littlest things like annoy me. Yeah. Like, you know, it's very little things. So there were times where I'd really flip out over the smallest things, and I kind of have to like catch myself. But by the time I catch myself, I've already done damage, you know. And you know, even up until last week before the show, even up until the show itself, you know, I like going into Orlando. There was times we were in a supermarket, and I was just little things just annoying me, like, and I'm like, oh, here we go. So we're like, you know, it was tough, man. The whole entire prep was tough as far as the relationship goes. And anyone who's been through with a significant other can definitely understand it. I'm sure you guys know how we get during prep. But again, she understands that it's not really me. It's, I guess you can say, the prep brain making me do what I'm doing. And but she supports me 100%. Always have, and she gets it. You know, so when you have someone who understands and goes through it as many times as she has, it definitely makes things much easier to get through the prep.
Well, we're sure you made up for it with a great Christmas present, and I'm sure you got some sort of all-inclusive vacation or something coming up for January or February, right? Get out of Jersey when it's in the middle of winter. Yeah.
Well, I got the gold medal and she got the check, so
all worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely something really hard. I think like especially when like you have like such high goals.
Yeah.
To achieve that, you need to get in a space that, you know, it's really hard to find a balance between like having a balanced life, having relationship, and being invested, and like being full and completely invested in your goals. That takes so much out of you. It's like, yeah, you're lucky to have somebody that understand that and support that. And
no, we're all in, man. There's no half-assing any of this stuff, and it's like even at the gym, man, I'm just like tunnel vision. Like I wear a hat, I'm in my hoodie, whatever, and I'm just not talking to anybody. And so she has to be that guy or that person for me. So if someone tries to come up to me and say, "Hey, not now," he's like really into prep, you know, and she kind of takes care of that. But I hate to be that asshole, but again, I don't have the energy. I don't have the strength. Obviously now my gym is very supportive. They understand why I was doing what I do. And obviously coming home, they all celebrated me and they put a big mural up on my gym wall. And it was awesome, man. Awesome feeling.
Nice.
But Shaun, you've got a great reputation. You know, every time you're out and at the shows or when it's before a show for interviews, we've talked how many years now interviewing you before the Olympia for the last couple years, and you're always positive, you're always upbeat, but you move a little slow, you talk a little slow, but you always got a smile. You always have that air of confidence. Even 2 or 3 years ago when you and I talked, you had this confidence that you were going to continue to do well. So it's interesting to hear how you're really buckled down and introverted, but when you're out doing the business of bodybuilding, I guess we could say, you're not like that. You represent yourself very well, your team very well, and you can tell this confidence and this chip on your shoulder that's easy to sense, but in a positive way. How are you able to navigate through all of that? Or is that really just you being you? Is it something you have to think about? When you know the media is going to be there, the fans, or is that just Shaun being Shaun?
I mean, that's just me, man. Like I said, it's a light switch. You know, I can turn it on when I need to and turn it off when I need to. I totally, the fans are what make us. You guys with the social media channels and the YouTube and the videos, you guys help get our name out there, right? So there's a time and place for everything. So when it's time for me to work and train and really get after it, that's my time, you know. But when it's time to do the interviews, the social media, the be around the fans, that's your time. I'm doing it for you guys, obviously, and that's where a champion or many of us have to be able to turn it on and turn it off when needed. Because the last thing you can do is be an asshole to the social media channels and the fans, because they remember that stuff, and we got to remember that we're doing it for ourselves. We're also doing it for the fans, you know.
And so you're a pro's pro. There's not enough. There's a lot of pro cards out there without the professional within that person who has the pro card.
Yeah,
and you find it far more often than not. So for those of you who get it, you are the true representatives. And I think we're seeing a shift over the last few years, and as it continues to happen, that guys are really starting to understand this is a way to make a living. This bodybuilding is a sport and it is entertainment. And you just hit it on the head. It's no different than a baseball player, or basketball player, or football player. They're in practice. They got their head down. They're going to work. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But then after the game, win or lose, you've got a press conference. You've got media to talk to. Super Bowl week, you've got the whole week of interviews and press conferences that you have to be at. It's part of the job. It's part of entertainment. It's part of growing the sport and you guys as a brand. And it's really nice to see and hear those of you who get it, because there's still a lot that don't get it or don't do it very well. And it reflects poorly on all of us. This is our industry together.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, there's some of us, like I said, who don't get it yet. Hopefully they will. But like I said, you gotta be professional both on and off the stage.
Yeah. I have another question for you, because did you always knew you would get to the top? Because it feels like, whatever you placed before, you always knew that you could improve more and you would get there eventually. That's how it felt like from an outside eye. I was with you in South Korea a couple of years ago, and wherever you play, and that was great memories, by the way. We had a good time there, but it seemed like no matter where you place, you always knew that you will come back better and better and better. There was no doubt with you, I'm maxing out. This is me. And that's where, that's where I'm going to be. There was always room for improvement. You could see it was still in front of you, way more to come.
I mean, I think it was 2007. I was having a conversation with Dwayne McDaniels of Diamond Gym. And I told him I want to be the first guy from New Jersey to win an Olympia title. And I stayed true to that. But I always knew that in time, if I continue to improve, continue to get better and show up show after show, that I'd eventually get there. I honestly believe that I could be Mr. Olympia one day. And I always believed that. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. But again, I knew that if I continue, like I said, I continue to move forward, progress, make the changes needed, that the judges required of me in order to get better, to move up in placings, then eventually I'd get there. But yeah, no, I wholeheartedly believe that, my time was coming, because I believe time is everything. And my first Olympia in 2015, I was dead last. The next year I was 13th, then I was 9th, then I was 7th, then I was 3rd. And, every year, like I said, I've moved up. I've gotten better. I've improved. And coming off a 3rd place last year, man, that was probably the most motivated I've ever been. And I knew that if I really put everything I had to prep, that there's no way in my mind that I was walking away with the title this year. Yeah. Like I said, I came in bigger, better, improved. I knew Kamal was known for his conditioning. So the one thing I really pushed this year was my conditioning and my core work, because that's his trademark. And I said, listen, Kamal, if I can match that with the new size, I'm going to give Kamal a run. And, going into Olympia, a lot of media didn't even have me in the top 5. But that was okay. That was totally okay, because, again, I didn't want the distraction. I didn't want the hype. I didn't want any of that. And that's the reason why I didn't post anything. I kind of wanted a clear head. And I said that, I'm going to come in and really, like we said, shock the world. And I believe we did that.
Yeah.
Shaun, let me ask you, you keep talking about you made some adjustments. You did some things to counter Kamal. And granted, he was the defending and reigning champion, so your sights were set on knocking out the champ. But you know, we know that there's been a lot of hype for the last few years about Derek as well. Was he in your vision or your thought process on adjustments you needed to make in case you needed to beat him as well, or were you solely focused on Kamal and what you needed to do?
Let me just, well, first and foremost, no, because Derek wasn't the champ, Kamal was, so Derek was never really on my radar. That's not in a disrespectful way. But honestly, this year I didn't focus on any competitors. I didn't really look at anybody this year. I didn't focus on what they were doing, what they were looking like, because in my mind, me putting attention on what they were doing took away from my energy, what I needed to work on, and me, and that couldn't happen. But at the same time, I understood that Kamal was a champ, and I'm just basing off of what I've seen last year. His conditioning was phenomenal. I knew that he was going to bring that conditioning again. So that was the biggest point for me, which is his conditioning and core work. I knew that I needed to increase my cardio this year and really push that in order to match that. Aside from that, I didn't really focus on anything or anybody. Derek, no, I wasn't focused on Derek at all.
You focused on improving your weaknesses or whatever?
Absolutely. Every year I focus on, I mean, even though I'm the champ now, I mean, there's some areas I literally looked at pictures and videos and picked out areas that still needed work. I need a little bit more hamstring drop. My calves need a little bit more improvement. I can focus, like there's little things every year, no matter if I win or lose, that I'm going to find that needs to be improved. So my key areas, I've already talked to my coaches, both Matt and John. We want to continue to hammer the chest, a little bit more upper chest, a little bit more lower lat thickness, obviously the calves. We need a little more hamstring drop. These are just areas that I'm just focusing on every single time.
That's one thing also, like, as you being able to like envision you keep progressing every year. I think, you know, because we have like a similar approach with Man this year. Like, I feel like you having a great team with Matt Jensen and John Meadows. I think John Meadows is a like very smart trainer, and he really like think about the training, how to really build the physique, like targeting certain areas specifically with specific movement, very precise execution. And I'm a huge believer in this. I think, you know, a lot of people keep like coming the same. They get bigger, but they have the same weaknesses, the same imbalance. And like, the way you're able to correct that is always going back to drawing board and change your form, change your exercise. And like, how much do you think, you know, John Meadows helped you with that, like really balancing out your physique and bringing up the weaknesses? Of course, Matt Jensen bringing the nutrition, you know, to
yeah. I mean, John, man, like, he's a genius when it comes to training, and it's not just some cookie cutter training program. Everything John has put together, it's something he's went through himself and experienced for himself and knows that it works. For me personally, my programs are specialized just for myself. So the program I have, no one else has it. It's catered toward my body and what needs to be improved. So our style is frequency. So we're catering more to the weaker areas and cutting back on the stronger areas. So for me, like
areas for a while.
Say again?
Do you stop training certain body parts for a while? Completely?
We don't stop, but we cut back on the volume.
Okay.
You know, and I mean, I can give you an example, which is pretty crazy. I think it was 2 years ago, we were training my chest and back 3 times a week.
Okay.
To really try to bring it up. And we were training my legs maybe like every 10 days or something like that, something crazy like that. Because for me, he feels like my legs were dominant from the front at least. So for example, this year, our focus again was back, chest, and a little bit more hamstrings. So I was including an additional hamstring day. I was putting a lot more volume on my chest and my back days. My leg days weren't as crazy. They were like almost like half of the volume that I would for my chest or back. And my arms, he really didn't want me having an arm day. He actually cut my arm day out completely, and I would just kind of sprinkle it in here on my back and my chest days, to be honest with you.
So that's very similar to the approaches that we take over here, is that depending on that person's physique over the years, we've added more training on certain body parts, taken away training from other body parts.
Yeah.
To put the primary focus on balance and symmetry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, that's why I think they keep improving the same and they have the same imbalances even though they're getting bigger, is they keep doing your body part once a week. And
exactly.
To rectify, adjust anything if you just keep doing the same thing you've been doing. And
it's just how their genetics grow, as opposed to taking an artistic approach and
Yep.
adding and subtracting to very specific parts of the physique, which I think is really the biggest difference. The higher the level you go, the more you see that, because it is such a small difference between first and second, second and third, third and fourth, that those small adjustments can make all the difference in the world. And we're looking at a perfect example of that.
Yeah, you hit it on the head when you said it's art. I mean, it's like taking clay and molding it.
Right.
A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit less here. That's exactly what it is.
That's the fun part about this, I think.
Yeah. All right, what's your shoe size, Shaun?
What's that?
What's your shoe size, man?
7.5.
What's your hat size?
Oh shit, I don't even know. Like 6 3/4. Am I getting some new shoes or something?
Chicago is gonna send you some J's.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So tell us somebody that out there besides your camp. You know, you've mentioned them multiple times. Somebody or something out there that you want to thank, whether it's from the past who got you started or got you through some tough times midway through that maybe not a lot of people know about. But I could see by the look in your eye, you've got a couple of people. We all have somebody from our past that we go, wow, man, I remember back then. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I mean, aside from the amazing, well, I hate the word fans. I use supporters because they're supporting me. I hate the word fans personally. Aside from them, man, there are two main people that just kind of like, first and foremost, Tom Garuba, the guy who got me started in this sport. Yeah. Because without him, I would not be sitting here today, because bodybuilding was never on my radar. And Clarence McGill, who I met in 2006, he's actually one that gave me the name Giant Killer. I had just did a show, local show, when I was a bantamweight. I had won the overall, beating out his heavyweight guy. And he comes backstage and, hey, my name is Clarence McGill. Just want to say congratulations. You look great. He's like, man, you're a giant killer. And that name has stuck with me since then. And Clarence has been in my corner every single day, every single show. He actually called me the day before the show, and right after, he was actually the first person I talked to at 6 a.m. the day after the show.
Oh wow!
He texted me and called me right away, and I was on the phone with him for about an hour, just going over everything from that moment we first met 10 years ago to now, and how everything came together. So Clarence and Tom Garuba. Definitely two guys who, and I wish to this day I can find Tom Garuba. I try so much to find him. I can't find him, and because I just want to thank him so much.
Hopefully he's watching this.
Hopefully he'll watch this and find a way to reach out to you.
I hope so, man. I've tried.
Kudos to you, Shaun. Again, the most touching moment of the entire Olympia week, which was phenomenal, was the raw emotion when you won. And some of those shots will go down in bodybuilding history, because it just doesn't get any better than that. So kudos to you, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you carry the torch at a 212 division all year.
Thank you so much. I definitely looking forward to you, like I said, trying to follow in Flex's footsteps, but at the same time, create my own legacy as I move forward.
Yeah. Thanks, Shaun, for being here today as our
first
guest under the scope. And best of luck for this year, and keep that title at home.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome. As soon as you reach out to the Amandas, it was a no-brainer. You guys have been supporting me, my career, for years now. I remember the interview we did after the Legion Pro. So, again, I thank you guys for that.
Like I said, it's always been amazing to me. Every time we've talked, you've always been humble, but with a lot of confidence behind you. And the way that you come off is just fantastic. A pro's pro, but again, always smiling, always a kind word. So it was a no-brainer for us. You had to be guest number one, and I really appreciate it. And we wish you all the best of luck, my man.
I appreciate you guys. Feel free to reach out anytime you guys need something.
Absolutely.
You,
all right, guys.
The very first episode of Under the Scope.
Yes, sir.
Co-host
Stan Delongeau.
Mandus Buckle, Maxim Muscle Report. Until next time.